Does your 10-22 pattern rifle have a lot of front to back magazine movement, maybe some side to side? Yeah, I think a lot of us have that problem. After Ruger's patent expired a few years ago, we have a lot of different manufacturers making receivers for these rifles, and sometimes the parts are not meshing together quite right. So I'm going to show you a simple procedure where we're going to be able to adjust the tension on this magazine, so stay tuned. So what we're going to do is we're going to install two 12 by 24 by 1/4 inch set screws in these two holes. And by doing this, we'll be able to adjust the tension on the magazine inside the receiver. So basically we're going to be putting some pressure on the in the upper right hand corner of that magazine to keep that magazine in there tight and from moving around and interfering with the bolt. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is clean out the threads in those two holes. I used a 17 HMR wire brush, and then rinse them out with some brake clean or any other type of solvent, or put some rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip and make sure that those threads are cleaned out, because we may have to put Loctite on them set screws. So basically you're gonna screw two of those into the receiver, and let me do that right now because it's going to be too hard to do on camera. So I have them installed where there's one thread showing, so they're barely peeking out of the hole, and we're going to see how the magazine fits. Okay, quite a bit tighter, but I think we could go a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to loosen them up a little bit. So we're going to maybe have a 1.5 threads showing. So we'll loosen those out. That way we've got a little less clearance for the magazine. We're going to put that in and we're going to test our movement. Okay, so now it does not move at all. Now we still want it to drop free, which it does. We want it to go in easily, to lock up easily, which it does. Okay, so we have a properly fitted magazine. Alright, so now back out your screws to about that point. Don't take them all the way out. Get a little dab of blue Loctite. It's probably a little more than a little dab. So put a little dab on there, and then we're going to tighten them back up to where they were before we unscrewed them. Alright, so we're going to tighten these back up so that there's about a 1.5 threads hanging out. That should be good. Alright, so now you're going to wipe off any excess blue Loctite that's sitting in there. Okay, so I have the excess blue Loctite wiped off. Now we're going to test fit the magazine again. So it does go in pretty good. There's very little rocking back and forth. I mean, practically none. We're going to pull the magazine out again. We're going to reinsert it, make sure it reinserts good, which it does. Now the real test to make sure that you have this set right is to try the 10-round magazines and make sure that those fall in and out. The 10-round magazines are a little wider than the 15 and the 25, so if anything's going to have a hard time fitting back in there right, the 10-round will. Okay, so the 10-round magazine is inserted. We're going to eject it. We're going to stick it back in. Goes in no problem, and it comes out no problem. So in, no problem, out no problem. So now the other thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to shorten up this bolt. Most likely we're going to have to shorten up this bolt. So we're going to put the barrel back on, we're going to put the V-block in, and then we're going to try and tighten this up. Now if we cannot tighten up the V-block, we're going to have to shorten up the V-block screw. Okay, so now you can see the bolts are threaded all the way down and my V-block is loose, so it's not tightening up. So we're definitely going to have to take a few threads off of the V-block bolt to allow some clearance in between the set screw and the V-block bolt. Okay, so I ended up taking off 3 threads off the end of these bolts, and then I did it with a bench grinder. I took 3 threads off and then I beveled the edges so that they'll thread smoothly into the receiver. So you can see the edges are nice and beveled. And when you're threading these in, if you get any resistance at all, stop and double check your bevel to make sure, because you don't want to tear up the threads in your receiver. Okay, so I have hand tightened both of my screws, and the V-block is tight. The barrel is nice and tight in there, and they're just hand tight at this point. So now I know it's okay to take my torque wrench and tighten them down to 25 inch-pounds. And that's what I did. And it is nice and tight. We have no problems. So we're good to go. Okay, so while I had it apart, I took advantage of cleaning up the inside of the receiver, cleaned the face of the barrel, and we got all that carbon cleaned up on the inside of the receiver. Also got rid of the carbon ring inside the barrel and cleaned the barrel also. So when you're building a 10/22 rifle, I think it's probably best, if you don't want to have any problems, to stick with one manufacturer. Like this kid receiver, I tried to put a BX trigger in it. It would physically not fit in the receiver. The tolerances on the kid were too tight. The plastic module would not fit inside the receiver. So it fits kid triggers just fine, but other triggers don't seem to work so well. So I know we've been pretty heavy on the kid 10/22 stuff here as of late. I do have some different ammunitions that finally came in. I've got some less expensive Elys that I want to try in all these rifles. I've got some SK. I've got some of the new Lapua long range ammunition. I've got the long range and the super long range. We're going to be testing that here pretty soon. So guys, if you like what I'm doing here and you find value in my content, go down there and smash that subscribe button. I can't build this channel without you. And if you like what you saw, please give it a big thumbs up, and thanks for watching, guys.